I mean, essentially that book, Comprehensive Guide, was the last one I wrote. And really at the time, a couple of years ago now, was the culmination of me really trying to understand, as much as anything, I wanted to understand how to put across the parts of internal practice that really confused me when I was younger, because I encountered Qigong when I was 13, 14, after quite a lot of years of martial arts. And I'm quite a practical guy. I'm quite down to earth, really. And often what I was encountering through what I was reading was things that were either too esoteric or a little bit woolly, very imagination based, which didn't really sit that well with me, not really. And then when I encountered Qigong classes, I was very excited because I had read all these stories of what was possible through the internal arts. And then when I went to my local Qigong classes, I wouldn't say it was bad, not at all, but it didn't match what I was hearing about, and not really. It was a class for relaxation and I wanted something more. So that really begun what was initially supposed to be a few years later. It was supposed to be about 6 months in Asia exploring martial arts and Qigong, and it turned into about 15 or 16 years. In fact, I'm in Asia now, I'm in Thailand, so the travel never really stopped. And during this time, really what happened was I ended up becoming obsessed with really trying to find anyone who could understand how these arts work. So I went down lots of dead ends, one dead end after another. Lots of money disappeared out of my pocket, which I didn't have a lot at the time, so that wasn't awesome. And then gradually, eventually, through handshakes and introductions, I started to be sort of accepted into certain lines, into certain traditions. So for me, I ended up in two main places, first of which was in Northern Taoism, particularly within the Chuanzhen lines, which is an alchemical tradition based very much on a form of meditation, but using the vehicle of the body rather than the mind. That's what makes it quite distinct, really, the Taoist path, the alchemical path. And then from there, the other line that I ended up in was some of the more esoteric Nei Gong traditions, including some of the Southeast Asian lines. So the deeper I went into these, I started to realize that a lot of the information that I was learning and studying actually would have been really useful from the start of my journey. It would have been pretty helpful for me to understand these things at the beginning. So I kept sort of getting these recurring memories of the frustrations I had when I was younger at the lack of definition behind certain things. And that was kind of the basis of why I started writing. I don't know if I started writing to help others who I was trying to teach, or really if I was writing to help clarify things for myself, really. I'm not sure, but it was kind of enabled me to put my thoughts down on paper and kind of clear this up. So really the basis of it with regards to Neigong, the things that I felt that I wish I'd understood when I was younger was really how to really access the path via the body. That was a big deal, because to me, as far as I can see, you can divide traditions really into three main categories. Certainly Eastern traditions, might be a little different in the West, but Eastern traditions you can divide into three main categories with regards to cultivation. The first one would be based very much around the mind, what I would consider a cognitive path, or perhaps a path that studies the nature of mind and the nature of self through kind of insight-based practices. So a lot of meditation systems in the East are based upon this, developing sort of clarity and insight into the nature of how the mind works. And then there's a second category of system that's really about the heart and feeling and emotion and devotion, and really kind of accepting something higher than yourself, and very much about love and compassion and connection. And it's a very emotive kind of expression of a tradition. But then you have a third category as well, which is really about trying to awaken or to maximize the spiritual potential of a body, really, by using the body as the vehicle. So rather than using the mind, and rather than using the feeling or the emotion, the devotion, if you like, it uses the body as a vehicle. So the idea being within Neigong that the more efficient you can make the body function on lots of levels, the more that it will move you along that process. So in the initial stages of the training, really, with Neigong, it's about the body. How efficient can you make the body function? But it doesn't mean efficiency as in muscular structure, flexibility, speed, these kind of athletic things. Not really. What it's really referring to are the systems of the body. How efficiently can they function? So everything from your respiratory system, cardiovascular system, right the way through to the nervous system, which is a really big deal in Neigong. That's an absolutely massive aspect to Neigong, how to get the nervous system functioning for what you require. Then from there really it goes on to the kind of energetics of the body. So energetics can even be or energy can be a slightly woolly term, as can qi within Chinese medicine and Chinese arts and things like this. But with Neigong, it's very nicely defined because they talk about yin and yang qi, yin and yang qi. So yin and yang qi can mean various things, but in the field of Neigong, really what it means is the kind of bioelectricity and the biomagnetism of the body, and how can these two be maximized and, I'm going to say manipulated, which might sound like a negative word, but those yin and yang energies are ultimately manipulated according to the guidance contained within the lineages. So the idea is that we maximize the health of the body, the efficiency of the body, and then we maximize the efficiency of these two forces, the yin and yang qi, and this is what is drawn down into the abdomen to an area called the lower dantian, the elixir field. So that efficiency process essentially goes on. It goes deeper. It goes deeper. It goes beyond this. So beyond the nervous system, beyond the body, beyond the systems of the body, which brings health and vibrancy and all of the things that many people want from the practice anyway. Beyond that, it goes into sort of more increasingly subtle layers of the body and then eventually the mind. So many of the byproducts that people would achieve through meditative training, certainly a lot of the sort of early to intermediate ones with regards to the stability of the mind and the level of concentration, even the ability to move towards sort of concepts people would know as samadhi and things like that, can also be achieved through the body, through the efficiency of the body's functioning. So if you look at it that way, the three paths, the kind of cognitive or analytical path, the heart-based sort of feeling, emotional-based path of devotion, and then the body-based path, then really Neigong falls into that category. And I think even from the beginning of my arts, it would have been nice to have that distinction. So really what I tried to do when I presented that book, Comprehensive Guide, which was a headache to write because I'm not very good on laptops. So I wrote the whole book with one finger on each hand, my index finger. So you can imagine how long it took because it's not a small book. But when I was trying to write it and put it together, really, I wanted to get that idea across. So I wanted to explain, look, we work with the body in this way. How do we make it function efficiently and why? How does that actually develop and as we move through the arts?